The NBA is dying, superstars are getting old, and players' perception in the media are leading them down a dark path. Kyrie Irving, the human highlight, the sage of the NBA, has lost his value as a superstar, and it's all his fault. Kyrie has consistently been a top 3 point guard in the league, and there were probably times he was a top 10 player in the league, but now he's being thrown in trade talks with Russell Westbrook, a player who on average negatively impacted his team last year. It's all his fault though. He's been given ample opportunity to prove what type of player he is, and he's continuously faltered. To understand how we got to this point, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. It started with Cleveland. A young Kyrie comes from Duke averaging a smooth 18-4-3, leading him to be drafted number 1. This means that he was given the keys to his own team where he could thrive. He was the man, a leader. His first season was a bang, but that did nothing for the team. Kyrie was a great individual, sure. He was essentially averaging the same stats as in college, but in the NBA, which is a major accomplishment for a number 1 pick. But that didn't make him a leader, and it wasn't enough to improve his team. In the first 4 years, the team only improved by 14 games and never made the playoffs. Bear in mind, Kyrie had been improving this entire time. He went from an 18-point scorer to a 23-point scorer at his best, but it wasn't working for the Cavs. Not until he arrived, not until he returned. LeBron, Raymond, James, King James, L Train, the GOAT, returned to Cleveland. And when he returned, he overhauled everything that was going on there. Immediately, he took them from not making the playoffs to 2nd in the East, 5th in the entire NBA, and to the NBA Finals. But the main thing he took was leadership from Kyrie. This was also the first season where Kyrie had a positive on-court plus-minus. This could have been the first inkling to doubts of Kyrie as a leader, but we were allowed because he's young. And he'd be celebrating the greatest achievement of his NBA career. Kyrie Andrew Irving would cement the greatest comeback in NBA history after hitting one of the greatest shots over one of the greatest players in NBA history. He was the irreplaceable piece to the 3-1 comeback. Everything looked good. Yes, they couldn't repeat next year competing against the greatest team ever assembled, but the Cavs were still in a good place. Or so we thought. Kyrie requested a trade and got his wishes. He got traded to the Celtics for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and some picks. Superstars request trades all the time, so it shouldn't be that big of a problem. He just might not have seen a future on that team where they could beat Golden State. The issue arises when Kyrie's reasoning behind wanting the trade was released. Simply put, he wanted to be number 1, the top dog, the head honcho. He wanted to lead his own team, which people deemed as selfish and hurt his overall perception dramatically. But that wasn't a major factor that hurt Kyrie's perception. When Kyrie originally signed his contract extension to the Cavs, he was of the opinion that he would be the Cavs' star player, but soon after LeBron James joined. And we can only speak from a certain extent about how Kyrie felt, and we'll truly never know. But it seems like Kyrie felt slighted and betrayed by the organization. He believed that adding LeBron was unnecessary, even though LeBron had just come from another NBA Finals and was undoubtedly the best player in the league, whereas Kyrie had come from winning under 25 games. This, along with his display on his first take interview where he avoided plenty of open-ended questions.
Is there something personal going on that's none of our business that you simply don't want to talk about behind the scenes with LeBron?
Can I ask you a question, Max? Why does it continuously have to be about one player? Do you realize that I played with 13 other guys on the team?
You've reached the point in your career and life where staying with LeBron James would hold you back in terms of fulfilling your complete potential as a player. Now you're answering cryptically a lot of the time and in kind of generalities, and that makes me think that maybe there's something personal going on behind the scenes that you can't or don't want to talk about.
I made the decision as a man, and as a man over there, Max Kellerman, just respect it and leave it alone.
Then it seems you're also saying you have a better chance that in perfecting your craft with another group, it also gives you a better chance to win a championship than staying in Cleveland this year with LeBron.
Wait, say that, rephrase that one more time. I feel like there's a simpler way that you can ask that question.
I need an answer. Give it to me.
Along with his former GM saying, quote, he hadn't been raised to understand how to lead and help you win necessarily, had put Kyrie in a negative position in the eyes of the fans and the media. People viewed him as childish, stuck-up, and not a team player, which would follow him into his first season with the Celtics. With expectations high and public opinion low, Kyrie started the 2017-18 season with a chip in his shoulder, having to lead a team with no experience and all the potential to distance, and he did not disappoint. At the time, this was one of his best seasons, averaging 24-5-4, and leading the team to the 2 seed and the conference finals. Remember, the second best player on this team is arguably a rookie Jason Tatum, as he averaged almost the exact same stats as sophomore Jaylen Brown. And though they would lose in the conference finals, Kyrie was on his redemption tour. He was proving that he could be the man he thought he was, and proving all the haters wrong. He was becoming the Kyrie we all once loved. The next season was the worst for Kyrie in terms of publicity, and at the end of the season would cement his descent into darkness in the eyes of the public. Jason Tatum was drafted in the 2017-18 season and showed potential from the jump. Where most rookies hit a wall at the All-Star break, Jason, under his mentor Kobe, only improved, slightly increasing almost all his stats, and in the playoffs, he took it to another level, averaging 19, 4 and 3. Jalen significantly improved from his rookie season as well, doubling his points, rebounds and assists while shooting 40% from 3, and though he slightly dipped in his third year, we saw potential. Kyrie started the year off strong. This being the final year of his contract, he started the season by announcing that he would resign in the off-season due to his love of the city, the culture, blah blah blah, etc, etc.
But there will be more spaces up there. Kyrie, how important is it to see number 11 up there one day?
It's quite important, and I appreciate that, Scout. I joined in, but I shared it with some of my teammates as well as the organization and everyone else in Boston. If you guys will have me back, I plan on re-signing here next year.
Boom!
So.
By the way, Boston has been called one of the most racist cities by opposing teams and some active players. Not just in the NBA, but just Boston in its totality. But, what fuck am I know? They didn't have the best start to the season, and the rookies trying to take a bigger role, it seemed to irk Kyrie to the point where he had to publicly speak out about it, saying that the team needed more experienced players, which I personally agree with. Experience is always an asset that can be utilised, but the issue is, addressing a private matter in public sows distrust amongst the team, affecting the overall chemistry. 2K told me that one. During the season, tensions started to rise and the team overall started to fall apart. Fights were breaking out during timeouts, the team was losing games, and Kyrie was getting visibly upset at rookies trying to step up. We could see that the team wasn't being a cohesive unit, and if Kyrie wanted to be leader, he took most of the blame. The way Kyrie handled the blame wasn't the best. Where teammates weren't blaming each other and trying to stick together, Kyrie actively blamed teammates. His frustrations culminated at a point where he had to call LeBron and apologize, and he finally understood what it takes to lead the team, and he understood that it was not easy whatsoever. Certain fans though took this as a dig at the young players on the team, as the way he phrased it seemed disingenuous.
I've been there in the championship, I've tasted it, but I can't expect that they're going to get it right away either. So it was a big deal for me because I had to call Bron, and tell him, I apologize for being that young player that wanted to everything at his fingertips, and I wanted everything to be at, my threshold. I wanted to be the guy that led us to the championship. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be all that, and the responsibility of being the best player in the world and leading a team is something that's not meant for many people. Few are meant for it or chosen for it, and I feel like the best person to call was him because he's been in this situation. He's been there with me where I've been the young guy of being a 22-year-old kid and wanting everything. Wanting everything right now. Coming off an All-Star year starting, and then this heck of a presence comes back, and now I got to adjust my game to this guy.
It all boiled up to this moment, the singular response which made the public be done with Kyrie.
Has your mindset shifted though in regards to re-signing with Boston, like the announcement?
Ask me July 1st.
The man that wanted to lead the team had rescinded his word that he made in front of tens of thousands of live fans. And as the team got worse and tensions got higher, it seemed clear that Kyrie had emotionally checked out. He had, however, checked in on one of his closest friends and mortal enemy of the NBA, the Snake, the Slim Reaper, Kevin Wayne Durant. The way KD and Kyrie were talking, it seemed as if Kyrie was trying to convince KD of something. And it being the NBA and both Kyrie and KD being free agents soon, it seemed as if Kyrie was trying to convince him to join a new team with him in the coming summer. Kyrie obviously denied the claims.
You to kind of chill it or what? Because people are obviously talking about it, Kyrie. Up to you.
What does that matter to me? Somebody was. Listen, I don't have a private life when I'm out there in the NBA. Somebody wants to take a video and. It is what it is. Pour water on it? I'm a human being talking to another best friend of mine. It's just crazy. This is the stuff that just doesn't make the league fun. It doesn't make the league fun. Nobody helps promote the league anymore by doing bullshit like that. Of just fictitious putting things on what we're talking about. It's crazy. I guess that's what you want.
No. What I'm saying is that it's out there. Do you want to cool it off or whatever by saying, people are running with it saying,
Yeah,
look, we haven't written about it. We're coming to you to ask you about it, okay?
Hey, people like who then?
Well, it's all over the internet. It's just,
Do you look at, is the internet real for you in your life? It's my life, right? It's two people talking, having a conversation. If this was a real world, would it be anybody else's business? But it's a video of somebody assuming what we're talking about, right?
I hear you, but
making an opinion about it. So why would I care about it?
Well,
why does that have an impact on my life? Why are you asking me those type of questions?
But as the situation in Boston got worse, the rumours seemed truer and truer. More losses, more backhanded comments, a Marcus Smart injury, and we've arrived at the playoffs. The Celtics started off by sweeping the Pacers in the first round, but no one seemed depressed, and they headed to the second round to play against the Bucks. Now, the Bucks were one of the better teams in the NBA, but they were lacking in certain obvious areas, mainly yards of variety in terms of scoring. So the Celtics managed to take game 1. This led to the downfall of Paul Pierce as an NBA analyst, because what he said next would ruin his NBA credibility.
Well, yeah, Giannis definitely has to play better, but as a team, I don't know where Milwaukee goes from here because.
Whoa! So is this over?
No, listen. I think it's over.
This series is over.
Yeah, they lost.
Game.
A gentleman's sweep. That is what the Boston Celtics received in the second round of the playoffs. The team that many people had to win the championship had got a gentleman's sweep. But guess who got all the blame? Kyrie Irving. Now, as he said, we saw on July 6th, those two places Kyrie seemed to be talking about were on the Nets, as he would sign a 4-year, $136 million contract, and 1 day later, his partner in crime would also sign after he was traded from the Golden State Warriors for D'Lo, some role players, and some picks. Now, his brief time on the Nets would be the best of his NBA career, as in his first season, he'd average almost career highs in almost every stat. Next season, the team would be in the best position it's ever been in. They would sign one of the best players in the NBA in James Harden, so if KD's still recovering but set to come back in that season, the team looked like clear favourites. But the thing that had plagued all of them would come back to ruin their season. Injuries. KD, Kyrie and James rarely ever played together, and when it mattered the most, they still couldn't come together. Against the Bucks, James would suffer a hamstring injury, Kyrie would suffer a freak ankle injury, leading KD to fend for himself against another team that was serious contenders, and it would become one of the greatest performances in NBA playoff history. They would beat the Celtics in 5, and Kyrie would infamously stomp all over the Celtics logo, which obviously riled up the Celtics fans, but nevertheless they couldn't do nothing about it. KD and the Nets would lose in the series by 2 inches, that would unfortunately end their season and leave it considered a failure. Now, before I talk about this last season, it's important to note that Kyrie is a very opinionated person, and he says his opinions confidently and wholeheartedly believes them. To the common man, they may seem strange, but to the NBA fans, they just seem like trouble. Kyrie would sage the arena before games, which I personally don't find strange, but when he started saying that we don't have actual evidence that the world is round, he started talking crazy. He got called out for a boxing fight by a YouTuber. He refused to talk to the media during training camp and called them all pawns. He would miss games for no apparent reason, and would constantly accrue fines from the NBA. This is important, as his mental degradation in the eyes of the public would culminate in the 2021-2022 season. Kyrie was completely fit and healthy to play basketball. However, due to Rona, the city of New York said he has to be vaccinated in order to enter public gyms, including the Brooklyn Nets home court. Kyrie was not vaccinated. With people dying and people refusing to follow the mandates about staying inside and covering your face, Kyrie's refusal to get the vaccine seemed harmful to those who have dealt with COVID. Kyrie was and still is completely adamant on his refusal to take the vaccine, which led to the team banning him from playing away games or training with the team. The entire time this was happening, he was being slandered and overall disrespected by fans and media alike. They were attacking his intelligence, his religious beliefs, and his overall character. This was definitely the biggest fall in terms of public perception. It didn't seem as if he was budging on his policies, and it was said that Kyrie was going to retire from the NBA at age 27 in his prime. But 39 games into the season, he made his long-awaited return. When he came back to the season, Kyrie was doing Kyrie things, but the team wasn't the same. James was apparently tired of Kyrie's shenanigans, so upon his request, he was traded to the Sixers for Ben Simmons. But Ben hadn't played the entire season and was poorly received by the team as there was no chemistry. When it got to the playoffs, it was just horrible. In every bracket, in every conference, the Brooklyn Nets, a team that was considered the favourites to win the championship, were swept by a team whose best player was under 25. And was the former teammate Kyrie was complaining about taking a bigger role for the team. And now, the Brooklyn Nets have completely fallen apart. KD is requesting a trade and he wants to go to another contender. Kyrie is also requesting a trade, but it seems as though the organization isn't taking it too seriously. And people have lost respect for Kyrie not as a basketball player, but as a man. Kyrie's fall started the second he wanted out of Cleveland. To compare him to his idol Kobe only wanted 2 things, to win and to get better. And though people didn't like his methods, they respected him for it. When Kyrie is in a situation playing next to the best player to ever live, and wants to leave for his own selfish reasons, it shows you his priorities aren't where they should be for this sport. On the Celtics, he had now started to show himself to be a leader, but in the second season, he couldn't commit to that role. He would constantly shift blame of team failure onto the team and their experience, essentially trying to absolve himself of fault. And not only that, he made a promise to an entire stadium to re-sign in the offseason and went back on his word, showing that he's not a man of his word. I think the Nets was his best time about LeBron, because he showed himself to be a real team player. When he interacted with his team, it was all done in a positive manner, and he's shown that he had really grown from his time in Boston. But in the eyes of the public, Kyrie's antics, including his exclusion from the game, brought only problems and distractions to the team, and the vaccination stance was a last straw. Now Kyrie is getting thrown around in some horrendous trade packages because people don't value his place on a team. They understand that with Kyrie comes drama, and that could bring more harm than good for the said team. I'm almost never going to slander a man for his belief, especially when he stands by them for a valid reason. But let me know what you think. Do you think Kyrie's right, or do you think he's lost the plot? And what do you think of Kyrie personally as a man? If you like the video, like the video. If you don't, don't. Subscribe if you want, and I'm done. Okay, bye.